Okay.
Yes, that they also chip in because, again, it's an issue that affects them directly. So we get to hear from them, and then we help them, we
have so many things, issues coming up. We have religion.
We have religion.
We have infrastructure. We have ideology. Can you chip in before this other guy comes in again?
Of course, moving on forward, it looks like now they have already set their mind that there's this specific thing that the Nigerians...
The train has left the station.
And now the question is, how possible is it for them to actually actualize their dream? And I'm looking at the approaches that they've come across with, aboard with. And the legal bit of it is the fact that indeed these people are fighting a legal battle in the sense that, if a people feel like they are marginalized, if a people feel like maybe their rights have been infringed, they have no options but to actually call for exit. So in this line, of course, that would give them an upper hand. Much as maybe the world would want to say that it's all right, we do not advocate for this separation. But of course, legally, they are supposed to fight for their rights, and they are justified actually in this case. Right, I tend partly to agree, of course, with Esther Mackenzie that indeed we need to go to the root cause of this whole problem. But just to top up on the point that I was putting across initially is, moving forward, do we really see these people actualizing their dream? And of course, we say they are fighting a legal battle in the sense that they feel marginalized. And in that case, of course, you feel oppressed, you need to speak out to the people and tell them that, you know what, I feel oppressed for this. And for that reason, I think the best we can actually do is to find our way out. I think they have now called it the Biafra exit or something, Biafra exit. That's basically what they say. They want that, sincerely speaking.
That's a very great point you are bringing in. Is this Brexit? Brexit. Is it the one that is telling the world what to do? What do you think?
I'd not want to connect, but I think genuinely the people of Biafra have very valid concerns, historical injustices that have been there for too long, and it's like a festering wound that has, been eating into the flesh over and over, and nobody was willing to listen. In fact, the voices of dissent were being suppressed. The voices of reason, the voices that represented the people of Biafra were being suppressed, and now I think it's reached, as you say, the train has taken off.
The train has taken off. Yes, viewers, that is what is happening. Because if you look at the millions of people calling in now and who are watching wherever they are Biafrans. And most of them are Nigerians from Biafra who are saying, we have had enough. And this is the first place where the white settler stepped. The book of Things Fall Apart was written under the contest, the Okonko, the Obierika. You see, that is under that domain.
But on the other hand, you have to think about, I think, the issue of this nation that wants to give new life to itself, which is Biafra, is extremely different. The circumstances, because what basically they've been doing is that they have been oppressed for too long, almost 47 years, and now it's been an ongoing thing. It's not like it just sprang yesterday.
Yes.
It's been an ongoing thing. Over 3.5 million people have died out of, and the government continues to suppress them. So I think while we might want to, in a way, connect it to the other one, it might not be really the case.
Well, I think the connection comes in, of course, with the question of trends and all that. And sadly enough, of course, maybe Africa has been ailing because the world has not always been very vocal to spread out the problems of Africa, or maybe the actions that Africans actually take to the world. For instance, if you look at Brexit, of course, maybe it was very widely publicized to the world, and maybe the people of Biafra have just taken it as maybe one of the slang that actually can match to the problems that they have been going through. Like Victor says, Biafra is not a war that has been there, that just sprung out from the blues. It's been there for the longest of time. And sincerely speaking, these people have been fighting a peaceful and simple and very tactical approach of war. But it looks like maybe this one has not worked for them. They've tried, to do it a simple way, trying to tell to the world that, this is not comfortable for us. I think we would take this way to try and bring in peace. The call for peace has not worked at all. Hence, the call for exit. And to this point, maybe the Biafran people have felt like, yes, indeed, much as we have tried to cohabit with the Nigerian people, with the larger Nigerian, population, it looks like it has not worked for us. And if you look at this, remember, revolution is a question of slow steps.
It has no timetable.
Yes, and has no timetable.
That's what
so moving forward, of course,
it comes as it is, and it arrives.
Yes, and sad enough is that at this stage, the people of Biafra are talking right now to the world. And I think that's when the question of issues to do with religion will sprung up. The questions of, now them going to levels whereby you feel like you do not want to give us a referendum, you feel like you do not want to give us our own independent state, then I think we are even going to levels of, trying to shamble up even with the elections and all that, because at the end of the day, we are not a happy lot. We are not a happy population. So why is it that we should go into the ballot and, be part of the elections and get leaders who are not even going to heed to our cries, get leaders who are not even going to represent us when they're up in power? So I think, in my own opinion, it reaches a point in time whereby, it goes beyond. And much as maybe we would want to say that the rest of the world would want to see this marriage work, it has not worked for 50 good years. Moving forward, what is it that these people can actually do? Because at the end of the day, whether you want to force them together, it looks like peace will never prevail.
Esther,
right.
On the same question, we see a pedo seem to have been put on a leg has been put on a pedo for departure. And everybody is saying, after Britain said we have left European Union, everybody, states came and said we're also going. Why do we keep ourselves in things that are not workable? But surprisingly, there are elders from the Igbo land, I think you have seen something like that, from the BBC, who are saying, no, it is not very necessary. So we would like to hear from those also who are saying, we have heard, that's why we are looking for. Also now, the television station will take names of those who want to talk about unity of Nigeria, as opposed to departure from Nigeria to form. I had a statement from General Babangida, who said he wants the reorganization of Nigeria. How do you reorganize people today? Are you going to take the Fulani down? This one, take them home? Are you not doing a second recolonization, internal recolonization, internal, separation of states, cultures? People have already intermarried for over almost coming to 100 years. How do you separate them from each other? Esther.
All right, maybe to just read the article from those Igbo leaders from BBC. And powerful Igbo leaders in Nigeria have rejected calls for the breakaway state of Biafra to be created for their ethnic group in Southeast. Their intervention is seen as an attempt to diffuse escalating tensions between rival communities in Nigeria. However, a pro-secessionist group says it will press ahead with its campaign. Security forces have killed at least 150 people since August 2015 to quell pro-independence protests. That is according to Amnesty International. The campaigners also fueled tensions in northern Nigeria, where some youth groups have retaliated by threatening to expel Igbos who live there. So the statement by Igbo leaders pledging loyalty to Nigeria could help ease tension in the north. That is according to BB's Naziru Mikhailo, and that was following a specially convened meeting in the Igbo heartland of Enugu City to discuss the crisis. State governors, lawmakers, traditional and religious leaders have issued that statement to give their full support of a united Nigeria.
Okay. That is a statement from BBC where elders were meeting the central government, the federal government of President Buhari. Kinani, the vacuum caused by Buhari's sickness, has it helped to make matters even worse?
I want to, on one part, I agree that, the fact that the president being out of the country and being incapacitated to be in office might be a challenge in terms of addressing some of these issues. But on the other part, I feel like even the time that he was there, he did not address it. I think this is something that the Nigerian government has tried to brush under, the carpet. And sadly, the rag has grown small in that the dirt has become too much. So it's almost like it's a mountain. And now it's like you're trying to cover a mountain with a piece of cloth. So it's not really working for them right now. But I feel beyond that, it's just not the Buhari government that has failed to address this. Previous governments have, in a way, tried to run away from this issue. It's been a festering wound, and now it's turned cancerous. And I think whether Buhari is there or not, this is a question that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yes. Esther has read, and we also look at, as we continue faulting, of course, the Nigeria's government, again, we look into the question of representation for the Biafran people, or maybe representation of the Igbo people, and these leaders that they have entrusted to go and, make dialogue and talk and maybe present their issues to the government, have they really done what is expected of the people? Because again, going back to history, you realize that many a times there are times that people actually, the Biafran people faulted the leaders that they had sent to represent them, saying that they have not been able to address the issues that actually affect, or maybe the calls and the cries of the people of Biafran. So moving forward, what then are the people of Biafran doing? Probably this is the time that they're coming out to speak it out. Maybe in the past moments, maybe amid, them trying to fight this battle, the leaders also, they have, the people they have sent to actually represent them have failed in a way or another. So I don't know, maybe representation is very, very important, but before we even get to continue, I think it's important that we also get to hear from them. Yes. Have they received proper representation from the leaders?
Okay. Thank you very much, Linda.
Mm-hmm. I think that we have to do this if we were to look at the question of Biafra. Let us roll back the clocks of time, the hands of time up to 1967 or thereabouts, and look before the Biafra war. If the people of Biafra, one, were included in government, they could get government jobs. If the people of Biafra were not to be segregated because of their simply because the country is majorly Muslim and they are Christian. If the Nigerian government was to develop infrastructure the same way in the Igbo region, if the people of Igbo and Biafra were to have the same opportunities as people from the other parts of Nigeria, would we be having the same situation right now? Definitely the answer is no. The simple reason that, historical injustices have taken too long. And if the government will have moved, let's even move it maybe to 1990. If the government will have moved then and tried to, correct some of these wrongs, yes, they might have happened. But we left it to fester for too long. I think the problem is these people have had too much. That is the whole point. They have had too much that in terms of, when you look at the question of opportunity, they are going to school, even under those circumstances, they are not getting jobs. They are not represented in government. They are not, their people are being killed. They are losing relatives every day. 3.5 million, it's a massacre. It's more than what, it's sad that as Africa we can be speaking about the genocide in Rwanda, which was 1 million, and fail to speak about 3.5 million. I think as Africans we have to be,
People have lost their life in that. And look into the question of maybe you realize that there comes a time when maybe the natural resources are nothing to what you can, to the comparison of peace. So I think the people of Biafra are calling for that peaceful moment beyond that, because whether they are part of Nigerian or not, right now as we speak, they are part of the larger Nigeria, population, but still they are not enjoying the benefits of the natural resources. So to them, I think what they need most right now is that peace. That is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, whether you're in or not, you're not enjoying the benefits of these natural resources. And let us also come to our knowledge that indeed, much as we want equal distribution of these natural resources, oil to be specific, there's also an external hand. I think the times actually when the French people came aboard to try and help the Biafrans, then for them it wasn't a question of trying to get revolution for the Igbo people. It was a simple question of trying to get to penetrate and grab that oil. Yes.
I think Kenani, is there a solution?
I strongly believe there's nothing that doesn't have a solution. And looking at the sentiments, the interactions that we've had, it seems like it's not like Biafrans are out to fight. That is the first point we have to be clear. What Biafrans want and are demanding from the Nigerian government is this, that one, we agree that we have been harassed for too long. We agree that our uncles, mothers, sisters have been raped and our people killed. We agree that we cannot find piped water, electricity, roads, hospitals, anywhere. But that's okay. What we are asking right now is that let us be given a chance through a referendum. It's not even a question of having leaders like Nnamdi Kanu speak for us. Let us, as a people, be given by the Nigerian government the power to self-determination and be allowed to determine the course of that we want to take as a people from here henceforth. Because we don't share values with Nigeria, the bigger Nigeria. We don't share values with them, and we feel like they have not been listening. We have cried for too long, and our tears have dried.
Okay, let's start with Mackenzie. The situation is, you can see overwhelmingly they are not interested. I want you to hold your fire and give me a solution when we come to final discussion on the matter. That is for you. Do they go? Do they negotiate? What do they do? For Linda Alera, is it oil? Is it the resources? Is it the lack of the bad past leadership that has created the current situation? And then Kinani, look at which way forward. Then those 4 points, 3 point pillars will form the general discussion and the talking point for this show. So let's start with Esther. 90% of our callers and those watching, they say hallelujah. Not even a single person said that let's wait in the house of God for a few minutes before the flood comes. They have said let them die with the flood ahead. Whatever happens out, that. And what are the consequences of this? Which, take it from there now.
All right, I think this is quite a delicate balancing act for the Nigerian government, because as you've seen, 90% of maybe 98% of the callers or the viewers have already made up their mind that they want to go their own way. They want to have an independent country. Yeah, and whether that is going to actualize, that is something else. And also what it means for them to cede, I think that is something else. But as you can see, they have said, they're saying they have a lot of grievances. They have a lot of issues with the Nigerian government. They feel marginalized, and they feel that the government has been doing a lot of injustices. There's one caller who talked about historical injustices, and I think that is something that is affecting many African countries, not only Nigeria alone. So for now, it's something that maybe we cannot conclude.
We can't even conclude.
Yeah, we can conclude. But there's one viewer actually who commented and said that it's not even actually the issue of Biafra. It's just that people have a bad mentality or negative. It is the mentality that they have. It's not
which is everywhere in
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes.
It's not even.
But there is one thing before we tackle, before you leave the stage, and we do something else. There is something paining me. That has pained me for, as a student of historical history and political science. Most of the parts of the British colonies have troubles in the north. Did you know that? Kenya, Uganda. Can you see that? We had problems in the north. The north picked up arms in Uganda to say the south had marginalized them. In most parts of where if you go to the Shona and the Debeli, the smaller tribes that were put on the bigger tribes tend to repel. South Africa, the Zulu, the biggest tribe. Part of the problem that is in South Africa, which is being fueled now with lots of NGO and civil society, is the Zulus have dominated us. Have you seen that? Where else? Malawi. The only place in Africa where the North has been peaceful is Tanzania, where you find the leader came from the North, went to the South. The South never complained, united them quickly using Swahili and other institutions. In fact, if you look at the contribution that Mwalimu Nyerere made to Tanzania by putting Tanzanians, you know Tanzanians have more tribes than Kenyans.
Yes,
136 tribes, but all of them, if you go there to speak your tribe, they throw you in the ocean. Here in us who have 32 only, 42. Uganda, we have 32. Oh no, 72, actually, tribes. We used not to see eye to eye. So, does it concern you that there could be an external element? That is the thing where I was heading. An external element which is redoing the British colonies. Inside, let them go to disarray. Because power rivalry, even superpowers can be working together under NATO, but they still have rivalry. Agents, spies from France could be spying on Britain, Britain could be spying on France, Russia could be spying on America, that is known. But within the NATO states, each state spies on each other. Don't you think there is a factor there, Kinani, and you touch?
Factor, and I think this one has been in the public domain because at some point in time you've seen the British and also the United States coming aboard to say that on this particular problem of the Nigerians of the Biafran war, and they've come aboard to actually accuse the French of trying to find their way into the Biafran, and into the Nigerian people so that they would actually grasp the oil down on ground. So this is not a factor that we can rule out actually, because you realize that during even the Biafran war, of course, the French were taking so much part in trying to see that they would actually come aboard and bring armisons and try and to deliver weapons or something like things to the Biafran people so that they would actually fight it out. So much as we might want to rule out the hand of an external factor, it is a fact that stands even to date that indeed there is an external factor to this, but then their main interest is actually based on the oil. Coming to the question of whether there is a solution to this, indeed. It looks like, yes, we have tried maybe all these things. 50 years is no joke, actually, trying out to see whether something is going to work. And literally the only option that we're left with right now is to try basically what the Biafran people are offering as a solution, that they want a referendum. And they've even taken a chance to actually go a legal way in the sense that we say, you know what, we're not going to declare ourselves a state. We want to take the legal route. We want a referendum. We want to be independent. Let's get the chance to actually decide whether moving forward this is going to work or not. And I think the try and error thing is very, very important because at this particular point, you give them a chance to decide. If they decide that, of course, they want to go independent, they go and try and face life on the other end. Then, of course, you come to the question whether this is achievable or not. So I think, in my own opinion, it is beyond It is beyond the help of anybody, any powerful person to actually come aboard and say that, this is what we would want to do. And as a matter of fact, for Muhammad Buhari, of course, the president, what does it benefit you? How sweet do you feel when you're actually presidenting an ailing nation? Because if half of your population is not happy, not even half, a quarter of your population is not happy, then sincerely speaking, you're termed as a person who has failed in terms of governance. So if the past regime did not look into the problem of the Biafrans, it is incumbent of the very person who is on board at now to consider the peace of the people of Nigeria. If you consider the people of Biafra as part of Nigeria, then well and good. Their peace is very, very important. It is inevitable. It is vital. So how best can you actually give them this peace that they are calling for? So I think, much as maybe some people, another school of thought would argue out that maybe separating ways would not be an option, it is good to give them this chance to actually go their way. Let them go and see whether they can manage. Probably it is going to even work magical and bring, peace, ultimate peace, and maybe ultimate integration from the two states. Because at the end of the day, peace is important, equal distribution is important, and if you are deprived of all this, then you become less of a human being. Then it's as good as you being dead. And you've the question of Ujamaa. Yes. You realize Ujamaa has worked simply because, yes, there was that integration, and every Tanzanian has felt the fruits of Ujamaa across boards. As opposed to these other countries, you're trying to say that as president you want to bring integration, but at the end of the day, the privileges are being experienced by half of the population and the rest of the population is not experiencing this. So how best can you say that this integration has worked if half of the population is not happy? So I think Ujamaa has worked because every Tanzanian they are Tanzanian. Of course, they equal distribution. They all got great chances as the people of Tanzania.
Okay, Kinani. Thank you very much, Linda. And that is a very good, valid point. Ujamaa was made to work. It worked because everybody was told that's the only way out. Now we can't even hold anywhere. There is no program that you can bring in Nigeria now. When people are saying it has been too much, they waited. Those who hammered the agreement of 1970, I remember in my capital, Kampala, they are not there anymore. They are down in the graves, most of them. The president Obote is gone, others are gone in 1970. We can't, next week or this week, maybe Friday, we again look at the agreement, the Biafran between General Yakubu Gowon and the General and Ojukwu. All of them fought gallantly, the sons of all the army. One took off and said there is no way. The other one stood on the other side. And we know how many people died. But Kinan, try. Give us your magic.
You asked me on the question of the way forward.
Yes.
But first, the way forward for me starts with how this thing is being handled, the whole crisis about Biafra. And I think even as we've seen, there are leaders who purported to be speaking for the Biafran war. It seems, for the Biafran people, sorry. They seem not to be reading from the same script. And so, in a way, when you look at this sentiments, to be honest, it's like these are not people who are leading. It seems they're in their own world. So the Nigerian government first needs to realize that and listen to the voices of the people. And the people does not mean people who benefited by virtue of being chiefs and leaders in the previous governments within the Nigerian government, and are now purporting to speak for the Biafran. Because what that means essentially is that these leaders are trying to protect themselves and in a way passing the wrong information that, things on ground are okay, while that might not be the situation. And I'm sure the Nigerian government has intelligence on this. They know what's happening. They know what's going on. So that is the first starting point. Secondly, is a question of whether Biafra should stay or leave. Under the UN Charter, and I think I'll have to quote it, the first, the principle of self-determination is prominently embodied in Article 1 of the Charter of the United Nations. And all people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So these people for too long, as I had said, is that prior to even 1967, they have felt like politically they have not been given opportunities. Socially and economically, they have been left out because they have no schools to go to. they have no piped water, they have no electricity, they have no roads, they have no hospitals.
The area produces.
Yet the area that they come from, it produces a black gold, which is now developing other places like Lagos and Nigeria and Abuja. So essentially, economically, they feel left out. Socially, the system of the family is broken because over 3.5 million people have been killed. That means people have lost their fathers, their mothers, their sisters, their uncles. The family unit that is supposed to be, the binding factor of the Biafra people is no longer there. So they have lost economically. They have because you go to school, you don't find a job. Your area is not developed, in terms of social amenities, in terms of infrastructure. You've lost socially. You've lost every other means that there is. Right now, the only thing that is left is self-determination. And the people of Biafra are not saying that we want to take up arms. They have said, we have been killed for too long. We have suffered for too long. We don't have jobs. We don't have anywhere we can run to. We are basically as we are. But you have done enough. For over 50 years, you've harassed us. You've killed us. You've not given us jobs. You've not given us government appointments. You've left us to be on our own. Please, by this only time, let us meet and determine where we want to go as a people, as a country. And I think it's only fair for the Nigerian government to grant them that chance to go to the referendum, do a ballot. I think that is the only way out. And after that, the results of the referendum will determine where the people of Biafra want to go.
I think it's also important that they look into the people who represent them. It's very, very important because by law, of course, even the government of Nigeria, much as they know very well that this is in existence, might actually overlook the whole affair. And, even in courts, they might be considered, like this is actually something that happened without your knowledge or something like that. So as you send these people to represent you, it's important because, of course, they will call for dialogues and all that. Send credible people, send people you can bank on because these are the very same people. You see the leaders who are claiming, of course, the people of Biafra actually claim that maybe these are not leaders that we sent. But at the end of the day, they are Biafrans. This is one thing that you can help them.
But you have to look at when you look at the history of Biafra, you now understand the complexities that come with it. Because some of the leaders are people who benefited from previous regimes, and now they want to speak on behalf of Biafra. While the true leaders of Biafra, people like Nnamdi Kanu, are languishing in prison for the same cause.
Well,
so there needs to be a clear distinction in who the government of Nigeria listens to. Because the people of Biafra have their leaders who speak for them, and yet there are people who are marauding to be leaders who speak for them.
And I think that is now a question to the people of Biafra to ensure that, of course, they lock out these people who are marauding. Because at the end of the day, the news outside here will pick that. The presidents actually will pick the people who are not are just purported to be actually leaders. And then that tells you the voice of the people of Biafra will not reach the ears they are supposed to reach.
Okay, thank you very much, viewers. Thank you, all of you, for watching us from wherever you are in the entire world, the whole world, from Australia. We can't finish. We have over thousands and thousands of telephones that have rung. For those who have not been able for our telephones to go, your telephone to go through, it's because there's a jam here. We can't even control the jam. Neither can we speak on very many people are interested in this topic. Therefore, we shall give it another trial on Friday. And on Friday, we shall do it for 4 good hours. Give it us from 10 o'clock. When do we start? 3 good hours. 10 o'clock of East African Standard Time. Look at your watches wherever you are before you go to work in Europe or wherever you are in America. We are now going to talk about a federal state broken. I think that's all we can summarize. Is a federal state broken? Is broken. If you hear these stories of people today saying they don't have roads, they don't have an airport, infrastructure, it has scarcity of infrastructure has created a problem. If you hear of people being mistreated in their own country, this has caused a problem. It's a common factor in most of the countries that were lumped together by the colonial master.